the the decline or weakening of this international system that we've spoken about for the last 30, 40 minutes, a further reason why it's weakening is because the legitimacy of Western-led global institutions is made worse by the historical hypocrisy of the US. The US promotes these international laws. It promotes laws like free trade. It promotes laws like, you cannot invade another country and violate another country's sovereignty. It promotes laws like, you cannot commit human rights abuses against your people. The problem is, though, the US selectively obeys the rules of international order. Like, it demands that other countries follow these international laws, but it doesn't always, the US themselves don't always actually obey them. And this is because of this idea of American exceptionalism, that America is a unique country. America, as the global police force, don't necessarily have to follow all the rules that it promotes. Some good examples of this is the US invasion of Iraq in 2003, where the US ignored the UN Security Council resolution saying that it was illegal to invade Iraq. Another example would be the US condemning Russia for supporting Syrian bombing, but the US also supports Saudi bombing in Yemen, which equally leads to a lot of human rights abuses and atrocities. The US also hasn't ratified really important treaties like the Law of the Sea. Now, what this does is it reduces the faith among non-Western countries in the legitimacy of these institutions. These countries in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in Latin America will believe, like, why should we support these institutions? Why should we follow international laws if the US doesn't do them as well? I won't speak about this very long, but I think COVID-19 also changes things as well. There is a deeper skepticism of globalization due to the pandemic. Countries are more concerned about closing their borders now to immigration, which led to the spread of the disease, but also to the vulnerability of supply chains across the world. And as I said a few weeks ago, China is taking the lead in dealing with this crisis. It is providing ventilators and respirators. It's providing a model for countries on how to deal with this issue. So China is increasingly gaining legitimacy as a leader through providing global public goods, such as helping with healthcare. So if you want to look at the arguments that have been made so far, you can look at this summary, you can pause it, and this may help you with the quiz. So finally, what is the future of international governance in the 21st century? I think we still need global institutions to solve global challenges. There are some serious international problems that we face in the next few decades. Artificial intelligence is one. Artificial intelligence could be something that really endangers a lot of people economically, but also in terms of privacy and security. So if China, America, and Europe are all developing different forms of artificial intelligence, this could create competition and rivalry between these powers. Internet governance is another thing. Again, China, the US, and Europe are all developing alternative forms of internet governance. If we want global communication to continue, access to websites across the world, we need common rules on this. But ultimately, what I think we're seeing is a decoupling. What I mean by that is a separation between China, America, and the EU, so that the internet is going to be divided in the future. This might seem like a crazy example, but genetic engineering we may need common rules on as well. For instance, let's say North Korea, in an attempt to become better militarily than South Korea, it starts to genetically engineering superior human beings that are stronger, smarter, faster, And then it uses those superior human beings to fight South Korea. If North Korea does that, that might encourage other countries to do it, like South Korea. So, in order to stop the incentive to genetically engineer, we need common rules and restrictions on all countries to not do this. So, we also need renewed commitments to existing treaties like the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons and climate change. These are continually going to be challenging to countries. So finally, we must acknowledge that we live in a multipolar world in which different actors have more of a say. So China, India, Indonesia, Nigeria, these countries have growing populations. They'll be growing economic powers. Global rules, security frameworks, they're not just going to be determined by the US and Europe anymore. Increasingly, we're going to live in a multipolar world where decisions are made not just in Washington or Brussels, but also in Beijing and in other countries, other emerging economies. And soft power and being networked will be important. It's about diplomacy. These cross-border problems, they cannot be controlled by governments. They cannot be solved by military power. You need to engage in diplomacy and create norms and common standards that all countries follow to solve problems like climate change, pandemics, financial security, travel, communication, all of these issues. Okay, good luck with the quiz.